Yeah, you sent me an invite, which I really appreciate. Yeah, my name is Robespierre, the infamous no, John Presco.
Okay. Nice
You know, I don't. You've heard about me. You know, with through Ali Valkyrie incident and Bell Birch and all that.
Which Ali Valkyrie incident?
Aren't they all
I
incidents?
represented her on a couple of them, so I
Yes.
don't know which one.
Yeah, this is when I was filming at Ken Kesey Square during the art walk.
Yep.
You know, and I was approached by Bell Birch, and several of her attorneys were there, and you know, so she took my number and contacted me. We set up an appointment to find out who we are for 2 hours, and she didn't tell me anything. She didn't tell me she'd been arrested or, you know. And then she sent me a poem where she was supposedly with sleeps people in tents, and she was going bar hopping. And I said, "You better not be using monies appropriated for the homeless to go out and party." She told me she was stuffing money in a jukebox to get her song played first. I'm going, and you're in a tent with sleeps people doing that? You know, I'm an advocate for the homeless. You know, I was working with Hud Vash, a friend of mine who was a homeless vet. We were helping him. Unfortunately, he died 2 weeks after we got him home. You know, because of 10 years of homelessness. He got chronic everything, including ammonia. He went out, you know. So anyway, I hope to bury a lot of. I'm trying to bury some axes, but you know, because I think when advocates for the homeless don't get along, they hurt homeless people. And if we hurt one homeless person, then shame on us. You know, so that's why I'm here to, you know, I have a blog. You know, is it okay if I record you?
Yeah, I know. Like,
okay.
Whenever I see that, I'm like, wait.
He's the star of the show.
Oh, okay. Craig Stevenson?
Craig.
Yeah. Right. So I'll hear all about you, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard. You heard all about me?
No, I haven't heard anything about you. I will when you get up there, huh?
Indeed.
Yeah, I just founded the Samsonite branch of the Republican Party. I'm suggesting 1 million people who are disenfranchised register as Republicans. Go always cross-vote, right? But we might be able to affect local issues or run moderate candidates.
Okay.
You know, and vote for them.
What state do you live in?
What state do I live in?
You live in Oregon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My kindred were the founders of Oregon. They were the protectorates of Oregon. Senator Thomas Hart Benton.
How would that be? You know, how would that be productive or Republican?
How would that? No, I said register as Republican.
Yeah. Well, how would that
Okay. Do you know about the founding of the Republican Party?
I know about Lincoln. It's gone downhill from then.
Well, no, it went downhill with Lincoln. Jesse Fremont, Jesse and John Fremont were the trailblazers here of this area, and they were surrounded by radical Republicans and the Turners from Europe, and they're the ones who came over in the Revolution of '48 against the Habsburgs. When they got here, they saw this democracy owning slaves. So 100,000 of them picked up arms and defeated the Confederacy. And John Fremont was the first candidate for the Republican Party that was basically founded by foreigners who were socialists and Marxists. So the base of the Republican Party is radical. So I'm going to reclaim that radical part of it, you know, and stop putting ourselves on the other side of the wall, thinking we got this unique hit on, you know, political reality, you know, oh gosh, you know. Well, I'm one of the original hippies in the Bay Area, you know, so, you know, I've been in the streets, I've seen the tanks, the guys with armed bayonets and military weapons.
Uphill battle.
What do you mean an uphill battle?
Well, what about the rest of the Republicans? You might feel that way, but I'm sure.
All right. Well, I think we will
Not,
get
you know,
started.
you ever hear of occupying, disrupting people?
Hi, Laura.
Okay.
I think there's a seat
Well,
right
I
there.
mean,
If you
people
want.
are so counterproductive that they should have joined the Republican Party. They've done more good.
I want to welcome everyone this
What
evening and
did you
thank
vote
you
for,
all for coming.
What good did that do?
We are very pleased to co-host tonight's presentation with Chris Hermes, who is a longtime friend of mine. He's been an activist for over 30 years, a legal worker for 15 or 16 years, and has played an integral role in a lot of the mass protests that have taken place over the last decade, particularly regarding Republican national conventions, Democratic national conventions, all of which are coming up again soon. And so he has just published his first book, which is right here behind you, and he's on the road discussing these topics and psyching everyone up to head off to Cleveland or Philadelphia, depending on your choice. And so he's going to speak, and then I may add a couple things at the end, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. If it starts raining or if it gets unbearable outside, we can move inside, but we just thought as long as it wasn't raining, we should enjoy the nice weather this evening. So with that, Chris Hermes.
Hey.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Thank you, Lauren, for the introduction, and CLBC for co-sponsoring. Also, shout out to the Community Alliance of Lane County for co-sponsoring. Yay. So, yes, Crashing the Party is a case study of the Republican Convention in 2000, but I actually don't try to encourage people necessarily to go to political conventions. While the nation's eyes and news media are on the host cities, it's not necessarily the best opportunity to really be heard in a meaningful way. And the book that I wrote is actually more about, well, less about the protests and more about the policing around the protests and what activists did to respond to that level of repression. That said, is there anybody that's thinking of going to Cleveland or Philadelphia? It's a long ways away, but yeah, you might go? Okay. Thinking of going?
Well, I'm actually thinking about getting 1 million people to register as Republicans and get beyond the wall and take over the base of the party and affect elections and the outcome and be heard. If the Republicans start kicking out Republicans because they don't like their
Let it make its
source.
presentation. We can talk about that in the.
Sure. Well, okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll have a chance to discuss issues. I don't necessarily encourage engagement in the electoral process, and I mean, it can make a difference, but that's not why I'm here. And I want to make clear that what I believe is possible is to relate some of the lessons that were learned from an era that may be bygone at this point, but actually has really significant connections to what's going on today across many political movements, not just electoral politics or the Republican and Democratic conventions. To give you a sense, one of the themes of the book is about the policing practices that have been developed over the last 16 years, really since the turn of the century. Social scientists have said that we're in a time of a strategic incapacitation, is what they call it, where police use a fairly aggressive form of policing around political protests. I probably don't need to tell people this. It's fairly evident. And that followed in the 80s and 90s, roughly, something that social scientists called a negotiated management phase, which is a much more relaxed engagement with protest and dissent, with some exception police or municipal governments were issuing more permits, were arresting people less, again, with some exception, less violent perhaps. That period was preceded by the 60s and early 70s, which, if you're familiar with COINTELPRO, was a very aggressive form of policing. So we can see these policing models happen in waves, and we're now in a fairly aggressive period for policing around the country. And my challenge is with this case study, it's from an era the global justice movement, among some other movements, but a fairly white middle class movement, and maybe not much relationship to what we see today on the streets. So my challenge is to take this case study and make it relevant to today. And my argument definitely is that the policing that goes on today, which was developed back in the turn of the century, is something that Occupy Wall Street activists, Black Lives Matter activists, and climate justice activists alike have to contend with. So